Hello, friends. Unfortunately, our world is a very cruel place. Our story today was shared online, and it sure can teach us a lot. A red, hairy dog was walking down the street, limping slightly. She was cold and had long forgotten the feeling of satiety. The dog kept searching for food, hoping that she could find at least something to alleviate the feeling of hunger, at least partially. The dog turned around the corner of the house and went towards the trash can. She jumped inside and began to rummage through the garbage, found something edible, and ate it in an instant. A little later, the stray wandered further down the street and reached a wooden house. She approached the abandoned building and made her way inside. It was there that her puppies were eagerly waiting for her. They were very small and looked like little fur balls. The puppies ran up to their mother, trying to whine, and one of them even tried to bark. The mother licked them, thus combing their fur, then lay down on the bed made of straw while her puppies ran up to her, plopped down on their tummies, and began to nurse. They had their mother, and they didn't need anything else. They knew that she would feed them, warm them up, and protect them from danger. The dog closed her eyes and saw a dream in which there was a lot of food, and she ate it with greed. Having had their fill, the puppies fell asleep, burying their muzzles in their mother's fur. Early the next day, the dog stepped out into the frosty morning and wandered off in search of food. She walked quietly through the snow, leaving small paw prints behind her. Suddenly, she saw a little girl eating pie. The dog ran up to her, looking with plaintive eyes first at the girl, then at the pie. Catherine realized that this unfortunate dog was trying to ask her for some food, and without hesitation, she gave the dog her pie. The stray instantly grabbed the treat with her teeth and ran around the corner of the house, because it seemed to her that there she could safely eat her piece of fresh bread. She really liked its taste because she hadn't eaten anything like that in a long time and had even forgotten what fresh food smelled like. Thus, the poor dog tried to lick even the tiniest crumbs left of the pie off of the snow. The red dog went further down the street. She knew this path well, so she knew that there was a garbage can around the corner of one of the houses. It was there that she hoped to find something more to eat. Suddenly, she heard children's laughter and stopped to look in the direction where it was coming from. The boys were playing in an unfinished brick house, throwing snowballs at each other and laughing merrily. The dog didn't understand what they were doing or what they were laughing at, so she decided to get closer and watch for a bit, hoping that maybe they could treat her to some food too. One of the boys noticed the animal and threw a snowball at her, but he missed. The dog got scared and immediately started running away. Maybe if her leg was healthy, she could have run faster, but she was too slow. Her heart was pounding, and she felt fear and resentment. Meanwhile, the children decided to change the rules of the game and were now chasing the poor stray. One of the boys threw another snowball at her. It hit her on the back and quickly fell off to the side. The young but cruel boys seemed inspired by it and continued their so-called game. Another boy threw a snowball, which he had previously picked up near the house. But it turned out that it was a piece of sharp ice that had fallen off the roof of the house. It was this piece of ice that hit the dog in the head. The poor thing fell down and scarlet blood ran from the wound, dripping onto the white snow. Images of her beloved puppies flashed before the dog's eyes. She wanted to get back to them. She knew that they'd be waiting for her, waiting for their mother, who was supposed to always keep them warm and lick their fur and give them motherly love. The silly and cruel boy stood next to the dying dog and didn't know what to do. Something was going on in their little souls, something they couldn't really understand. Fear and a sense of anxiety made them throw the dog into the nearest body of water. The boys didn't quite understand what they had done because no one had ever taught them the difference between good and bad. Meanwhile, the little puppies also couldn't understand where their mother was or why she wasn't coming back to them. The chances of ever seeing their mother again were getting smaller by the second. Suddenly, a little girl came from around the corner, the same girl that gave her pie to the poor stray just a few minutes ago. The girl's name was Catherine. She immediately ran to the dog, which was floundering in the water, and was disoriented because of the impact. The girl wasn't afraid of the icy water. She went knee-deep into the water and picked up the heavy dog. The girl felt her little heart sink from pain and pity for this animal. All she knew was that she needed to help. She got up and looked around, hoping to find an adult to call for help, but there was no one there. So Catherine carried the wounded dog home, both of them soaking wet. When the girl reached the door of her house, she literally fell to the ground. The parents brought their daughter and the animal inside the house. "Dad, please take her to the vet," the girl begged. The parents were frightened by the state their daughter was in. The mother stayed home with the girl. She helped her change into dry clothes, wrapped her in a blanket, and gave her warm tea. A little later, the father with the dog came back. It turned out that the wound was superficial, so the vet simply stitched it up. The adults decided to keep the animal for the time being, because it was very cold outside at night, and then look for a new home for the dog, but the girl hoped that the dog would stay with them forever. Catherine named the dog Jessie. However, Jessie didn't seem to want to stay in the warm house, where she was fed the most delicious dinner of her entire life. She stood at the door and barked loudly. The mother suggested that the dog needed to take a walk. Since the daughter was still recovering from her adventure, the mother decided to walk the dog herself. They went out into the street, and the animal immediately rushed off somewhere, and when the woman stopped, the dog barked as if she wanted to say something. Thus, the dog brought the woman to her puppies. "Wow, what a surprise!" the woman exclaimed. 4 tiny puppies were sleeping in a box. Smelling their mother, they immediately started to nurse. The kind woman took the box and carried it home, and Jessie, wagging her tail, ran after her puppies and her mistress. A while later, the family found loving owners for all 4 of the wonderful and playful puppies, and Jessie stayed with Catherine. Years passed, and Catherine turned into a young woman. One summer vacation, she went to the lake with her friends. Of course, she took Jessie with her. Playing ball games, the day went by very quickly. It started to get dark. Catherine decided to go for a swim before going home, but she didn't tell anyone about it. Suddenly, when she was already far from the shore, the woman got a cramp and couldn't move. It all happened so quickly. Catherine was drowning and she couldn't even scream. None of the people saw the tragedy happening, but Jessie always watched her mistress. Barking loudly, she rushed to help her. Catherine's friends then realized what was going on and also rushed to help her. The dog was the first one to reach the young woman. She grabbed the drowning woman with her teeth. A moment later, one of Catherine's friends swam up to her and managed to pull her ashore. Meanwhile, the other friends called the ambulance. It turned out that the woman had a microstroke. Fortunately, everything ended well. Thus, one day it was Catherine who saved Jessie, and now, if it weren't for Jessie, something terrible would have happened to Catherine. And that's all for today, friends. Share your thoughts about this video in the comments below. Hit the like button. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.